Hello, everybody. Once more, hello, everybody. Hello. Fantastic. Right, we're up to closing keynote. We've got the lovely Gwen Diagram with us this afternoon, which is absolutely fantastic. Welcome back.
Thank you.
It's really cool. Different hair colour.
Of course.
Which is really superb. Not the dinosaur dress.
No, but I've got dinosaur socks.
Dinosaur socks are good. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, round of applause for Gwen. She's your closing keynote.
Hello. It is amazing to be here. I was here last year and I had the best fucking time ever. It's such a lovely conference. And Alan, thank you so much for asking me to be here. Today I'm talking about George's marvelous medicine, potions for leadership in an organization. So this is a bit of a story, how I've moved up through the organization and how it's been kind of scary and interesting. So, previously at Agile on the beach, I did a lightning talk, which was called Me and Mr. T, it was all about how my developer, who was a recent university graduate, and I traveled the world. We were writing code and getting drunk. Not really, though. What it was about, really, was how you can absolutely make the tech world your own by getting involved with open source and partying really fucking hard, going to conferences and learning. So Mr. T and I, we met each other at a really crazy little startup, and we were having the best time ever because we were actually releasing software, which can be quite rare. But as startups go, that one went bust. And I had to go back to reality. So I originally got another job at a small company in Leeds, but it didn't really work out. I've been through most of the companies in Leeds, really. Seriously. So I worked at a consultancy, so I've got a fair few of them under my belt. And being enthusiastic and not really being able to read faces very well meant that I'm not very welcome back at one company. So it was a really big financial company, and I wanted to automate all the smoke tests. I absolutely love automation. It makes me really happy because I'm really, really lazy, so it means that I don't need to do as much or I can do better things. So it ended up that the test manager there really loved manual testing. But when I was getting really excited about automating all these smoke tests, she showed her disapproval in facial expressions instead of actually saying that she wasn't very happy. So I had no fucking idea that she was mad, so I kept going on and on. So I've gotten a lot better at reading facial expressions, but I'm still not going to be welcome back there with open arms. So I applied at one of the places that I hadn't actually worked, and I got a job at a corporate, as you do. So I got a job as a senior tester, mostly because this meant that I had a really big say in how we were going to create automation, which was really rad. And I didn't have to manage people either, which is cool. But lots and lots of things happened. And so the other senior left, and we got a new head of tech. And so I became what I didn't want to become. I became a test manager. So I was told that was where I was going to stay as well, because I didn't focus on the right things, which was OPEX and CAPEX, of course, the most important things in the world. And anything that didn't consider these two things, they just weren't considered worthy of paying attention to. Spending too much on training, that's affecting their OPEX budget. 20% time, that's the fucking OPEX budget, and you need to look after the OPEX budget over anything else. And so doing anything that isn't just coding work is a nasty, childish habit. So I was told. I was told that I was naive and a double-edged sword because I was enthusiastic but just too damn naive around this kind of stuff. But we have to grow via learning. Otherwise, we'd be creating the same thing over and over and over again. And that's really dull and kind of useless because it's not what anyone actually wants. Telling people that they can't do something as well doesn't usually end well. It means that they've had to ask you for permission for something, which creates a really strange dynamic. So we're all adults here. Shouldn't we be working together to create something excellent instead of asking for permission? So I just don't get hierarchy. I don't like people telling me what to do or what I can't do because I want to work hard and I want to create the most awesome fucking software that's ever existed. And this goes way back. So this is me when I was 15, and that's the lead singer of a band called Girling, which is an Australian band that I absolutely adored. But school just wasn't my thing. So in grade 9, in Australian terms, that's about 14-year-old over here, I think, I had to leave a school because one of the teachers thought that I had a cocaine addiction because of how hyperactive I was. So obviously I wasn't addicted to cocaine because I was 14, but he was convinced and he followed me around everywhere, lecturing me about my drug habit. So climbing on rooftops was always more interesting than sitting in class, which is one of the things that I used to do often in his class, which seemed to confuse him and also upset him a bit. So generally, people in higher up positions just told me I was really fucking badly behaved all the time because I didn't do what they wanted, so hierarchy wasn't my thing. So Sally, she spoke here, and she spoke about her partner Francis with ADHD, and the first time I heard that talk, I almost cried because I really fucking connected with that. Like, everyone's always telling you you're bad because you're really enthusiastic. Like, you just want to do awesome things. That's bad, apparently. So yeah, hierarchy, don't really like it. So it was strange because I found out that not all people hate hierarchy. In fact, some people actually really fucking want hierarchy. So the way that I found this out was I worked in a fairly dysfunctional team. So the team was 13 people, which in itself isn't going to work. I actually learnt about this last year at Agile on the beach. I'd never seen these diagrams before. And I just found it so awesome. So 13 people here, it means you've got 78 lines of communications. That's not going to fucking work. Yeah. The pairing, we also had a pairing rule in this team, which was great. And the pairing rule went something like, it was compulsory to pair on any card, which is really cool because I love pairing and it was really nice because I got to hang out with my developers really closely like this. But some of the people in the team really, really struggled with knowing who to pair with each day. So it was decided that part of the daily stand-up was to work out who was going to pair with each other for the day so people didn't need to make that choice themselves, which is weird. And so I realized that some people just like to be told what to do. And so becoming a test manager, I needed to start managing people. So management is really in at the moment. So I've got a bit of a thing with airports. I've been talking about airports a bit over this weekend. Not weekend, week. And yeah, I absolutely fucking love them. So I was really lucky enough to be in Terminal 5 in Stockholm Airport a few weeks ago. I was on my way to Tallinn. So Terminal 5 is a fucking huge terminal and it's beautiful. And it's got lots and lots of great things. In particular, it's got a Swedish design shop. So I saw something that I really wanted in that shop. And it's a little clamp that you clamp a leak in and you grow leaks. And I loved it, but I couldn't get it there. So I was like, that's okay, I'm in Stockholm Airport a few weeks later, so I'll pick it up then. But I ended up in fucking Terminal 2. So Terminal 2 is really shit, really sucks. It's tiny. And it doesn't have that Swedish design store. It doesn't have anything very fun at all, actually. But it does have a really tiny bookshop. And even that really tiny, shitty little bookshop had a management section. Management books are really cool at the moment, and they are absolutely everywhere. So if these management books are so popular, obviously the right thing to do is just read a management book, and you're going to be totally fine, right? So maybe not. I'm no longer a test manager, but I'm now in the leadership team, which is cool, because I get to observe a lot of different styles of leadership. And I get a lot of people telling me to read these management books in this team. So the first book that I had to read as becoming part of this management team was Turn the Ship Around. So has anyone read this? Yeah, quite a few people. So it's really interesting, but it really didn't work for me because I'm a 33-year-old woman and I study Agile for fun. I fucking love this stuff. I live this stuff. And I've seen numerous Agile talks, and I live my life in kind of chaotic 2-week sprints. And I also leave everything to the last responsible moment, like a responsible Agile person. And I've also never been in the armed forces. So I always rejected when people told me what to do, unless it made sense to me. So turn the ship around. I made it through half of it, but I couldn't actually finish it because it felt like it was stuff that I already knew and I couldn't connect to it. It's a really awesome story. It's well written and it's beautifully narrated on Audible, but it's just not meant for me. It's not for me. I didn't want people telling me what they intend to do, which is a lot of what the book is about. I intend. I want them to achieve goals as a team and then show everyone how fucking awesome they've been. I don't want them to intend to do things. I want them to do it. So the next one that we had to do, this one wasn't a book at all. This one was really interesting. It was an audio clip that we had to listen to, and it was called Expectations versus Agreement, which is something that Agile just teaches you to do really, really early on. So the team is in control of when something will be delivered. Through communication and setting goals for the team forecasts when it will be delivered. I knew this stuff already. This is like Agile 101 kind of stuff. And after listening to this, everyone there spoke in a really strange language where they were agreeing to do things, and it was just all management speak bollocks. I agree. It was so dull. So the idea is really cool, but it really wasn't what I needed either. So that night, I was annoyed. I was so frustrated sitting in a world of management speak, I agree, that fit with my Agile principles, but it was somehow contrived. And it wasn't what I wanted at all. I wanted action. I wanted things to be awesome, not just empty agreements. And so I did what any Agilista would do. I went to the gym and I listened to the goal. So the goal is really amazing. Has everyone read it? You definitely will have. So if you haven't read it, I really recommend it because it makes you so happy. It makes you understand that anything's possible, and it is. So it's about the theory constraints. But I'd already read it, which was cool, but it gave me hope because of that. In the goal, Jonah uses the, Socratic, is that how you say it? Socratic, thank you. Socratic method to stimulate critical thinking within Al. So Turn the Ship Around does this as well, but in it, the employees weren't actually asking for help. They were just being given this help. So somehow the goal was different in that fact. So I think that where these other books really fell down for me was from, one of the many times I was in trouble at school. So at my second high school, a new method for taming all the children, wasn't really children, we were teenagers by this point, was made, which was called Responsible Thinking Classroom. So how this worked was before a teacher sent you away to this classroom, they asked 3 questions, which were, what were you doing? What should you have been doing? And why weren't you doing it? So after that, you were sent to the Responsible Thinking Classroom where you literally had to just stare at a fucking wall unless you were writing an apology letter. Now, someone who doesn't like being told what to do and everything, this is torture. It's psychological fucking torture. So it's a way of keeping control of the students. I was 16 by this time, and I didn't want to be kept under control by anyone. I never want to be kept under control. So neither do developers, neither does anyone. Asking people to agree to something can be a way of talking down to them. Working together to come up with a solution on a level ground is what we want. So there's hundreds of management books. The bookshops at the airport were rammed with this kind of shit. So a lot of them mask themselves as leadership, but in the end, they're still treating the others as subservience by asking for agreement instead of working together to get a solution. And so who here has had a good leader? Okay, keep your hand up if you've had a great leader. amazing, that's really cool. So I used to have one a couple of years ago. He was my mentor, but he was also my leader. He read a lot of these kind of books and filtered all the crap out. So originally, I just copied him because I didn't know how else to do it. So then I started reading audiobooks and listening to audiobooks and asking other people for recommendations, which led me to read more books that was more suited to what I was actually looking for. So Drive was like the most amazing book to read because it spoke to me about how I was motivated. And Creativity Inc. is what I'm listening to at the moment, and it's absolutely lovely. It's about Pixar and how they move forward with that. So although there's a whole list that I haven't read yet, because you come to these conferences and people tell you about these amazing books, how you can change the world. So what some of the other books were seemingly missing out, the ones that I was getting told to read by other leaders I worked with, was what leaders were actually for. So I'd somehow managed to make my way up to the chain. So me, the green hair, hyperactive punk who constantly got kicked out of classes and stuff like that, and I just want to ship quality software, and I had really different ideas to everyone else due to my self-directed learning and this kind of stuff. So hanging out at Agile conferences like this with the other misfits from school who were climbing on roofs and getting kicked out of classes, that was cool because you fuckers are all succeeding as well. So I came to the conclusion that a leader is there to motivate. So when I became a manager, my main goal was that the testers that I managed would come out from under my management and they would be better, they would be more talented, and they'd be able to go and ask for other jobs, and they'd be able to earn more and have the confidence to ask for more as well. So when I was managing, I had this tester that I absolutely loved. So this dude was so awesome. He had really great communication skills, and he was really enthusiastic as well. And he'd come along to some conferences and stuff with me as well, which was really nice. And he asked really cool questions as well, like, why? So as a tester, it's probably the most important question that you can ever ask. Not just as a tester, as anyone, ask why. So he caught me out a couple of times as well. So me being the automation queen, I just wanted to automate the fuck out of everything, automate the world. And I had to be pulled back and asked why I was doing that a few times. And I was like, oh, yeah, I was just doing it because it was really fun to look at. Yeah, you're right. Thank you. So anyway, this dude wanted a 4-day week. So he could do other stuff, like go to the gym and go mountain biking, which was really, really cool. So non-work related stuff. I said that was absolutely brilliant. And I told him, I'm really proud of you for realizing what you want to do. Like, that's badass. And I'm going to sort it out for you. That's totally cool. And so I did. But the problem with this is if someone doesn't have kids and they don't want to work 38 hours a week, everyone else starts to get a bit grumbly. So they call them lazy and like they're not working hard enough. So I really thought that I'd already dealt with it until it came to appraisal time, where the other managers, they wanted to mark him down because he was lazy. They said he was lazy. And I didn't understand because he did his work. It didn't make sense to me. So he did have a bit of a problem with timekeeping. He doesn't like traffic in the morning, and stand-up was at 9:30 in the morning. And this time was completely unmovable. So we'd tried so hard. We'd tried several times. So 9:30 is a totally fine time if it's sunny like this. In winter, when it's dark, and when you have to travel and get to work, ready for the stand-up, it's not an appropriate time if it doesn't work for everyone. But it was immovable, nothing that I said. And so they knew that was pretty much a bit of a non-starter with me because I was like, dudes, I've wanted to move this. It's not fair. You know that someone can't make it consistently. Why are we doing this? And we'd been over it time and time again, and I was totally on this dude's side for it. So stand-up has to work for everyone. But it ended up that the only time that they had to call him lazy was he spent too long on a card that was poorly managed from the start, and from everyone, developers, POs, everyone. But test often gets blamed in these kind of situations when something gets held up, when something isn't actually that testable, so testability wasn't thought of at all. So it was a bit of a mismanagement of my part because I should have noticed earlier, perhaps, and I should have gone in, but I don't want to micromanage. Like, there's a Scrum Master to help people with the cards. That's not what I'm there for. So I went and spoke to my manager at the time, and he was a bit of an older style manager. And I asked, what did I do wrong? Like, how did I fail here? And he said I needed to use the carrot and the stick. So I only recently realized what the carrot and stick meant, hence probably why everyone thought I was naive. So when I spoke to this manager, I literally thought he was talking about, dangling a carrot on a string. He wasn't. So that horse, he's got a carrot. He's digging it. That's nice. That's what management should be about. But that's not what he was saying. It's fucking reward and punishment. He wanted me to punish my staff? I'm not going to punish my staff. They're not fucking children. That's ridiculous. So this is management, right? So this carrot and stick? Like beating someone with a stick if they don't do what you want? How can that even work? Doesn't it just create fear? So the other weekend, I went to the gym and I went there for a HIIT class. And in the break between dying on all the different circuits that we do, there was a 3-minute run on the treadmill. So I'm terrified of the treadmill. It's this really weird moving thing that you can really hurt yourself on, really. And I don't know how to use it either. So I went on and I held on for dear life while using it. And I was holding on and freaking out the entire 30 seconds. I was on there really, really tense. My instructor, Annie, came over and noticed I was petrified and told me to stop holding on and she'd control the pace. So she set me out walking and she made sure I was okay. She told me to stop holding my arms up like this and just walk at a normal pace. Once she saw that I'd calmed down a bit, and in a soft voice, she told me that she was going to up it so I could start jogging a bit. And then, while I was still calm, she informed me that she was going to increase it to a run. So I could have run while I was holding on, but I was really, really tense, and I wasn't going to get the best out of it. So I might have even hurt myself with how tense I was, seriously. So I ended up managing 3 minutes on the treadmill because Annie was there next to me, helping me by coaching me and calming me down the entire time. So this is one of the rare times that she wasn't shouting at me. She was encouraging me by speaking really softly and calming me down. But you're not going to get a good result if you are scared. If you're constantly scared of being in trouble, you aren't going to create something innovative at all or get good results. So what really worked when I was on that treadmill was Annie giving me constant feedback. Shoulders down, don't run yet. Just walk like you're walking down the street. Look ahead. So with each instruction, I could adjust my movements, and with each adjustment, I was more comfortable and stronger. I was winning, and by the end, I was doing exactly what I needed to do to be able to run on a treadmill. So, when did you last have a one-to-one with a manager or a mentor at work, if you have one? Who had one in the last month? Cool. The last 2 weeks? Cool. The last week? Does anyone get them daily? Constant feedback? Nice, that's cool. So it's not just applications that need continuous feedback. It's people as well. So if you're a manager and you aren't having one-to-ones regularly with your staff to help them improve, what the fuck is your role? What are you even doing? So yeah, that might sound a bit more like mentoring or coaching to me. Because managing in the traditional sense of having control over people doesn't fucking work. So countless studies have been done to show this, and it doesn't work. If you went to Anna's talk on powerless, powerful leaders, you'll get the theory behind that, and it was really cool if you didn't watch it back, because it's badass. So, why doesn't this work? One of the things I found when I was having to give appraisals was that we had to adhere to a bell curve for people. This meant that some of the employees, they just had to be shit. So that's why my tester was suddenly shit, because we had to adhere to this stupid fucking bell curve. And if it had to be someone, well, it might as well have been him. That's not right. That's not right. Because we want everyone to be excellent. We want our employees to be the most awesome that they can be. And we want them to be happy as well. So, traditional management is dead. Fuck management. This old school thinking of carrot and stick is not what we need now. We haven't ever fucking needed this shit. So, we need our employees to be mentored, loved, and nurtured to be able to deliver brilliant software. We want engaged staff having the best fucking time ever. And not holding on to the treadmill of work for dear life, but running along confidently and achieving what they set out to do. So, how do we do this? Just like George did in George's Marvelous Medicine, start making a potion. A little bit of this and a little bit of that is going to help your employees to grow. I'm going to have a look at some of the schemes that you can set up to create employees that can grow. So, in my current job role, I get loads of time to come up with some crazy schemes, which is really, really cool. So, one of these that I came up with is a mentoring scheme, which I'm not going to lie to you, I'm still attempting to implement it, and it's not even close to getting there. So, it's huge, but people are really, really excited about the idea of it. So, the response that I got to this when I posted it on Slack was fucking massive. It really shocked me. People really want to be mentored in their job roles. Like 100% of people that replied wanted to be mentored, which is so cool. People want to improve themselves. So setting up a mentoring scheme at work for a really, really massive workplace isn't going to be easy. And it was a pretty big task for me to take on, really. So how on earth was I actually going to ever achieve this? So I asked, has anyone actually done this before? So yeah, the London office had. They'd set something up like this exactly. And so I could actually speak to them and get their feedback and advice. And they'd found TED Talks on it to show the mentees and mentors. It was already set up for me, which is so awesome. And while I was speaking to these people that set it up, they asked me, why on earth is a principal tester interested in setting up a mentoring scheme? That's really weird. Because I'm the principal tester. That's why. So more engaged employees mean better software. And I'm all about quality software. So how do I figure that? Recently, I was at Nordic Testing Days in Tallinn. Are there any Estonians here? Cool. Okay, that's a shame. But I went to Tallinn, and for the speakers' dinner, they took us up this TV tower, which was really amazing. So the TV tower is an enormous structure, and it's got some really, really amazing history. It had to be built for the Moscow Olympics in the 1980s, because that was the closest port to Moscow. So the sailing was going to be there, and this is in the days of the USSR and stuff. So it was built in communist times. So people had to be there building it. They didn't really have a choice about it. And it's really interesting because people sabotaged efforts as much as they could. These structures were always going to be poor quality because people were forced to build them, and people who are forced to do things don't build quality. So, no, we're not building TV towers or bridges or anything like that, but we are building software. And if you're more engaged, you're going to build better quality software. So how else can we engage employees? So when I took on my new role, I had a look at the testing that was done in all the different departments I was going to be working with. And one department really, really stood out. So I walked around introducing myself to all the testers. And I spoke to the testers in this one team. Well, to everyone, not just the testers, but I spoke to the testers in this one team. And they were sitting there really, really miserable. So I asked what they were doing. And they were doing manual regression testing. So they were doing their second week of manual regression testing. And they were bored as fuck and really miserable. Has anyone ever done manual regression testing? It's fucking shit, isn't it? Like, no one wants to do that. So there's one way to really, really get my back up. And that's by telling me that you're doing manual regression testing. So I can't think of too much that I hate more in the role of being a tester. I really, really hate manual regression testing. So I came up with the idea of an exploratory testing workshop, and I was so excited about this. I thought we could identify all the different areas in the product that we needed to test and use the testers' skills to check the application instead of blindly following regression scripts. These testers, they must have had really awesome skills. Let's use them, or if they didn't, let's create them so that they do. So I spoke to the test manager about this. She said no. She said that everything was already covered in manual regression scripts, and we don't need to do that. We've got it. Well, it wasn't my team. I'm an outside advisor. I work on strategy, and I definitely don't tell anyone what to do. If she didn't want that for a team, I can't force her, and I shouldn't either. So I'd already organised a trip to the BBC, however. So I was taking a bunch of the testers over to the BBC to do testing, because I know the BBC testers, because they go to conferences like this. Everyone goes, so I knew them. Yeah, I work for Sky, and we're going to the BBC. We aren't sharing company secrets. I don't give a fuck about their company secrets. What we care about is how we can do better testing. So between the BBC and ourselves, we learnt so much. I learnt that everyone is having the same issues with testing. Even if you are the BBC, I'm like, oh my God, the BBC are so cool. They've got the same kind of problems. It's okay. And I went over and spoke to them as well, and the lead tester there was like, oh my God, you're having the same problems as us. Don't be ashamed of the problems that you're having. So that was really cool. And you know what? When we came back the next week, the test manager asked to speak to me, and she said, Gwen, can we do that workshop? So by going and showing, instead of using a heavy hand and forcing her to do it, we fucking won for the testers, And we all got what we wanted. So if you're really struggling with something, speak to the community. When you're at a conference like this, speak to people. And if they're having the same problems that you're having, or they've figured out how to solve them, or you work in the same area, see if you can help each other, because there's a really good chance that you can. So learning your craft isn't only an internal company-wide thing. There's communities external to your company, and get involved in them as well. It's really important. So while you're at the company, see how you can actually help the wider community as well. So if there's an internal conference and you spot someone really, really amazing, let them know how fucking awesome they are. And encourage them to go and speak at a local meetup or even at a conference like this. You can help them by reviewing their talk and coaching them and helping them improve it. Let them practice with you so you can give them feedback as well, because feedback is the breakfast of champions. So practice makes perfect. One of the ways to help your employees practice their craft is by holding workshops, like I mentioned earlier. So holding workshops isn't easy. There is so much work that needs to go into them. But there's some that's open source. And I went to the TDD for Testers workshop by Sarah, And I said, Sarah, that is so, so awesome. My testers would really like it. Can I use it and run it at my company? She was like, fuck yes. And please give me feedback. You know, people will share their stuff. So one of the ones that I want to run is Juice Shop, which is an OWASP security awareness workshop. Security is something that most people want to learn about because it's a really dark art and it's hard. So it might be tempting to only train your little department or world, but with things like security, make sure that you spread it as wide as possible. So I'm going to be running this OWASP Juice Shop workshop, and I want food to go with it because it's 4 hours. So my department couldn't provide food, but by opening it up location-wide across the entire office, one of the other departments has money and they can provide food, which is cool. So that's really good as well because I get to help more people by teaching more people about security. Don't just focus on your own little area. So people having the opportunity to actually learn will be engaged as well. They will want to build awesome software with their knowledge and be enthused about their work. So with this knowledge, they're also going to be able to build better software. Look for the gaps in your employees' knowledge and help them learn. By going to conferences such as this, you can find out ways on how to teach your employees how to build more awesome software. And software that they're actually proud of as well, so they can show their friends. So, back to the Tallinn TV Tower. So, years after the Moscow Olympics, the Soviet Union was starting to fall apart. Soviet troops attempted to storm the Tallinn TV Tower with tanks, and so by radio, other Estonians were alerted to come to the TV tower to protect it, as it was the only way to communicate with the West, with what was actually happening in the Soviet Union. So, a really widely known account tells of a handful of radio operators who in 1991 risked their lives to protect the free media of the Republic of Estonia. So they placed a matchbox between the elevator door and frame in such a manner that the elevator wouldn't work, which forced the Soviet troops to climb every single one of the approximately 1,000 tower steps. It's fucking badass. It's genius, isn't it? So the operators also had an oxygen removing firefighting system at their disposal. So no one knows if the system was actually operational at the time or if it was a bluff. But putting the system into use would have killed every single person in the tower, including those trying to defend it. And they were ready to sacrifice themselves. So people came from all over Tallinn to form human shields to protect the TV tower from tanks. I'm getting emotional. I fucking love this story. It's badass. So that day, Estonia regained its independence without any bloodshed. Ask an Estonian about this, and they're going to proudly tell you how they protected that TV tower that day. So the tower restored in 2002, and it reopened in 2007, so it's not so shittily built now. So you can go and see how Estonians regained their independence through teamwork and ingenious solutions. And also, you can do the edge walk, which Ash and I did, which is terrifyingly awesome. You get to sit on the edge of it. It's really cool. So it was management that built the TV tower, but it was leadership and teamwork that saved it. So management? No. Fuck that. It's not management that we need. We need mentoring, coaching, love, and communities just like this. And we need leadership. And by coming to this conference, you are well on your way to making that a reality. So, thank you.